Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
My name is Alice. I worked for the Umbrella Corporation in a secret laboratory developing experimental viral weaponry. There was an incident, a virus escaped. Everybody died. Trouble was, they didn't stay dead.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. I'm your host Stuart and I'm also joined by Andy.
Hello, and apologies in advance for anyone if I do blow out anyone's eardrums because I'm suffering from a really, really bad cold today, and if I sneeze then that may happen.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to feel sorry for him just because he's got a cold, because he's been down to Eurogame for the last 4 days, 5 days, the lucky kid, and I wanted to go and I couldn't. Right, on this week's show we have two reviews. They are
the new independent movie from the director of Brick, a film which starred Joseph Gordon-Levitt, which also stars in this movie, and Bruce Willis, Looper, and the latest in the Resident Evil series, Retribution.
Yeah, on top of that we have the news in the box office top 10. As always, you can get us on the live chat on Spreaker, so why don't you jump in on the live chat and join us. Right, let's kick things off with the UK box office top 10. Number 10, and you went for Savages.
Yeah, Oliver Stone's latest film about a couple of guys who are involved in the drug business and their sort of strange relationship with their girlfriend, singular girlfriend, when she's then kidnapped by the cartel that wants to get involved with them on a business level, and they don't want to be interested. It's getting a lot of mixed reviews. I mean, I kind of liked it. You didn't like it that much, did you?
No, I didn't.
I kind of did. I enjoyed it a lot more than most of, I think, Oliver Stone's previous films. Although I do think it is his weakest for him, his more mainstream film of all his films.
Yeah, I just thought it was lacking in a lot of things, and it's very long as well. It's overly long. Number 9, Dread.
Just Dread.
Yeah, just Dread. Why not?
Not Dread and something else.
No, just Dread.
The full title. No.
Even though it wasn't shown as just Dread, it was shown in the third dimension.
Yeah, let's call it Dread: The Third Dimension. It's a really great adaptation of the sort of the comic book character completely destroyed by the Sylvester Stallone Danny Cannon version in the 90s. This one completely brutal, really uncut, rated 18 for reasons of it being extremely gruesome, violent, and enjoyable as hell. Carl Urban is absolutely brilliant in this, and I'm disappointed it's not done better in the States, because I was really hoping it would do well and get a sequel, so I hope we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, number 8, Lawless.
It's a film that I was disappointed with. It's again been getting a mixed reaction from different people. I thought it was a bit poorly written. Some great performances in there, surprisingly, from people like Shia LaBeouf. Tom Hardy's decent in it, although not at his best. Jessica Chastain is in the film, but completely wasted because her character's not really well written for. In fact, her character's not really written at all. And it looks brilliant, great cinematography, but just overly long and dull.
Yeah, at number 7, Brave.
Pixar's, well, I don't know how to say least successful, but least entertaining, Pixar's least Pixar film. It's really more like the old Disney films that you got, but because of the animation and the Pixar element that's involved, it should be a lot better than it is. Again, though, it's one that's getting a lot of mixed reviews, largely down to the issue of being mothers and daughters that love it, and everyone else doesn't seem to, because there's that reaction to it. I don't know. I can't really comment on that, but for me, it was well animated, but just lacking.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Number 6, Anna Karenina.
We haven't seen this, but it's the latest adaptation of the Tolstoy story. This time starring Keira Knightley and Jude Law in the film, which is getting a lot of good reviews from Joe Wright, the director. It's getting great reviews for Jude Law's performance in particular. And it's doing quite well for itself. So it's one that if you are very into those period pieces, it may be worth checking out. From what I have heard, though, one of the issues with it is people are saying that it does have too much of a kind of a set in a play rather than being a film issue.
Yeah, number 5, Hope Springs.
It's another one we haven't seen yet, but it's the sort of romantic comedy between Tommy Lee Jones and
Meryl Streep.
I couldn't get a name. I had a picture in my head, but I couldn't get a name. The two of them play an elderly couple who Meryl Streep's character wants to try and get their love life back and active again, as it's been sort of dead between them for a while. And in an effort to do so, go and see a shrink or a counsellor played by Steve Carell, which is getting nods for being a sort of a straight performance from him, not a comedy performance.
Yeah, number 4, The Sweeney.
I'm surprised that there's been. I mean, it's dropped down a fair bit, but it's not dropped down as quick as some people are thinking. It's getting it seems to be a lot of mixed reviews in films that are out this week, or in the top 10 this week. It isn't really The Sweeney. It is a British action film in the style of American action films, but it's enjoyable. It's quite entertaining. It's really well done, considering that it's only cost £5 million to make, and it's all about Ray Stevenson's performance in the lead role. He's absolutely brilliant. But it's just the only thing that's got to do with The Sweeney is that it's the two characters' names, Carter and Regan, and that it's the Flying Squad. That's it.
Yeah, and it's Ray Winston, not Stevenson.
What's Ray Stevenson? Oh God, yes. I know. So I was watching something the other night with Ray Stevenson in it, which was. Well.
Yeah, but I'm guessing that The Sweeney, it's a bit of a pointless release for The Sweeney. It's too late. It's just like a film that shouldn't have had The Sweeney name attached to it because it doesn't feel like it, apart from the character names.
Yeah, it is really a case of that if they had done it, called it something else. I mean, it would have just been the same kind of film. Calling it The Sweeney and having those characters brings nothing to it.
Yeah, at number 3, and you went with A House at the End of the Street.
We haven't seen this again. It's a horror film that came out just last week with a small budget film. I believe this only cost about $7 million to make.
10 million.
10 million.
Yeah.
Almost £7 million then. I'm sure I read 7 million somewhere. It must be pounds and then obviously converting it. It's the horror film with Jennifer Lawrence. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with names tonight. I'm not well. And she moves into a house with her mother, played by Elizabeth Shue.
Yep.
I think it is, yeah. Hey, I got that one right. They move into this house, which is in sort of the middle of nowhere in the countryside, sort of a small estate, and the final house next to theirs is the site of some grisly murders previously, which then holds some kind of secret.
Well, sort of. The survivor was the son. He survived.
Don't go into it any further than that, because
it's actually in the trailer. The only survivor is the son. The son befriends the girl, but something strange is actually happening that's occurring from that house. It's been getting horrible reviews. It's been getting absolutely slated. But for a film that's only $10 million and it took $13 million in its first weekend in the US, I can't remember how much it took in its...
Well, hey, that means there's going to be a sequel.
I can't remember how much it took in the second weekend, but it tied for the number 1 spot last weekend, and that's a rare thing.
Didn't it? Yes, it did. Yeah. Joint first and second.
Yep. Number 2, and you went for Killing Them Softly.
Which is a really well-directed, really well-put-together, great performance thriller. With Brad Pitt as a hitman who's brought in to clean up after a couple of thieves that steal some money from sort of a mob card game. It's a really odd thing. The only thing I can really link it to is like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, where it's about men and their feelings more than it is about a hitman and action. Because it's not an action film; it's a thriller, but it's kind of a drama. You've got characters where they're sort of discussing their feelings, and characters who are, when they're sort of being attacked and beaten up, they genuinely just crumble on the floor, sort of reeling and begging not to be killed, and that. And it's all about that sort of mentality of it. It is a very well done film, but unfortunately for me, it was just, for a 90-minute film, it was a long film, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, and number one is Paranorman.
Yeah, I'm really glad that has managed to take the top spot, because it went in at number 2 last week, I think, behind Sweeney. And it's a brilliantly animated film, maybe the best animated film of the year. It is the what's it called? The animation, the stop motion.
Yeah,
it is stop motion animation from the people who did one several years ago, Coraline. It is exceedingly well done. The problem is that in the 3D, there are ghosts in it, and the ghosts are clear, and it just something wrong with 3D with the ghosts. It makes them difficult to watch, difficult to look at. Aside from that, though, the rest of the film is amazing. It's got loads of jokes in there and references for horror films for adults and kids. So check it out. If you are going to see it with kids, though, be warned, it's rated PG, but I wouldn't recommend it for anyone under the age of 10, because it has some moments in there that younger audiences will find quite frightening.
Right, let's get on to some movie news. Now, this is good news. Good news for the fans of The Amazing Spider-Man. Both Andrew Garfield and director Rupert Wyatt are returning for the sequel, and Emma Stone is also in talks to return as Gwen Stacy. Alex Kurtzman, Robert Orsi and Jeff Pinker are writing the script for the film, which will start shooting early next year for a May 2nd, 2014 release date.
I'm really happy about this, because I think, and I heard Following the Nerd were talking about this on their show the other week. Now, the thing is with this, I think Spider-Man may be my favourite comic book movie of this year, even more so than The Dark Knight Rises, and even more so than The Avengers. It's just I loved it. And
I have to disagree with that. If I have to go out of enjoyment, I would have to see a Dread. Dread was the one that I had the most enjoyment out of, even though things like you said, Avengers Assemble and The Dark Knight Rises were really, really good films. And I think The Dark Knight Rises is one of those movies where you start questioning whether you really liked it after you've seen it more and more a couple of weeks down the line. And The Avengers Assemble is just a fun movie. I just thought that Dread was the more surprising one rather than The Amazing Spider-Man, because I just thought it was average.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw... At the cinema, I saw The Avengers 3 times, I saw The Amazing Spider-Man 3 times, and I saw The Dark Knight Rises 3 times. I've only seen Dread twice. But for all of them, for me, The Amazing Spider-Man is the one that I enjoyed the most, because it's fun, but it's also really faithful. It's tone perfect on the character. And for me, that was what's really important in it, and I absolutely loved that. I can't wait to see it again. I've got to wait now till it's end of November for the DVD and Blu-ray, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, Mr. Moobs in the live chat says Amazing Spider-Man was also his favourite. So a lot of people out there really liked it, but I just thought it was very average. Right, next piece of news story, both Martin Freeman and Eddie Marsan have joined the cast of The World's End. The film, which is the third and final part in the Cornetto trilogy, will see the two actors join Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Rosamund Pike and Paddy Considine in the ultimate pub crawl that happens to coincide with a possible apocalypse. The film itself is set for an August 14, 2013 release in the UK. There is no release date for the US at the moment.
Well, I think I'll wait until more near the time when we see something of this, because there's going to be, as they like to say, fried gold either way, but it's just as to whether or not it's going to be as good as or better or worse than the others, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, let's see. Next piece of news, Looper director Rian Johnson. Is it Ryan or Rian? Because it's no Y, it's an I.
I don't know.
With Rian,
I honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'll go with Rian. Looper director Rian Johnson has said he would love to direct an episode of Doctor Who. According to a recent interview with Johnson, he said, "What I'd really kill to try, although it would be terrifying because I'm such a big fan of it, is Doctor Who." Johnson isn't the only director who said he would love to direct an episode of the programme. Lord of the Rings main man Peter Jackson also wants to do an episode.
I think as well. I remember somewhere saying that someone was suggesting Guillermo del Toro do an episode of Doctor Who as well.
They might as well just have a season where they get loads of like big directors to just direct an episode of Doctor Who, and instead of them having a storyline that feeds throughout them, just have say like 6 episodes or 8 episodes where it's just different stories.
Well, I don't know about them. Yeah, I don't know about them getting people in to direct it because the director can only do so much. I think they should get them in to write it because the writing is where they come up with however bizarre and weird their stories are. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see. You've had big directors directing television shows before. I mean, Quentin Tarantino's done it with, I think it was ER that he directed an episode of.
Yeah, didn't he do?
And that was an episode. And thinking back to it as well, that was an episode which not only he directed but also starred Ewan McGregor.
Yeah, didn't he also do an episode of CSI as well, Quentin
Yes,
Tarantino?
he did a 2-part episode of CSI. Yes.
And Joss Whedon has also done an episode of Glee.
Oh dear Lord.
Yep. Why? But
well, he's a big musical nut, but
yeah, that's true.
That for the Avengers.
Yep. Another piece of news story. Last week we reported that Rupert Wyatt was leaving the Rise of the Planet of the Apes sequel, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, due to him saying it has a strict release date of May the 23rd, 2014. Well, according to the studio, I can't even read my own handwriting. Cloverfield director Matt Reeves is top of the shortlist to take over. Also on the list is Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, Scott Cooper, and Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens with this. I still don't buy that as being the legitimate reason why he's leaving. I think that there's other things going on there. I still believe that. And I think in some point in the next few months we'll find out whatever the real reason is. I don't believe that that's the reason because he's had longer than most people get on a film since the other one because they announced doing another one before the first one came out. So
yeah,
he's had more than enough time to try and plan something else, and I don't buy it.
And like you said, 2014, the 23rd of May, is a while away, considering that they're going to be shooting the next Spider-Man film, and that is set for a May 2nd release, 2014.
Exactly.
So
there's other films coming out before that which have had less time, and there's been no issues with them.
Guardian of the Galaxy is going to be one of them.
Yeah.
Because that's supposed to be coming out at the end of next year, so... my last piece of news, Deadline are reporting that Seth MacFarlane has been picked to host the 2013 Oscars. That's all I've actually got down because it was just released as sort of like news about an hour before we started the show. So yeah, he is the host of next year's Oscars. Billy Crystal hosted it this year because he stood in for Eddie Murphy. So
they do realise that it's the 1st of October, not the 1st of April today. Yeah.
I don't see that as an April Fool because I think Seth MacFarlane's a decent host because he's done the roast for Comedy Central. So as long as he tones back the language a little bit, and he can do some musical numbers as well because he can sing because he's just released an album. So he's really into his blues music. So he should be able to handle it. But he's a very busy person. So how the hell they've managed to get him, I don't know.
Probably made an offer that Fox will keep Family Guy around or something for longer.
Yep.
Couple of things I've got to go through quickly. Len Wiseman, who directed the Total Recall remake, has been hired by Universal Studios to reboot the Mummy franchise. The movie will potentially be aimed at a summer 2014 release. An early word in the script that's being developed is that it may be brought forward to present day as a setting as opposed to Stephen Sommers' series that starred Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, I liked the first Mummy film. Nearly fell asleep during the second Mummy film. Hated the third one.
The third one is terrible. The second one has a real problem with CGI effects towards the end, with the worst effect ever in a film, I think. My final piece of news is that Joel and Ethan Coen are coming to TV Land. They're bringing one of their biggest successes to the small screen. Network FX has signed a deal with them to bring Fargo to the screen. It'll be based on their 1996 movie of the same name, and both Joel and Ethan Coen are expected to be involved with the project as executive producers.
I didn't like the film Fargo. I just didn't get why people liked it.
I didn't either. It's one of those films that a lot of people like, and I just didn't. I honestly found it to be a chore to get through. It was an exhausting film to watch and not so much rewarding.
Yeah, I just didn't get why people enjoyed the film. I didn't find it funny. I didn't get the quirky humour of it. And I'm not much of a Coen fan, actually. I just don't find their films engaging that much.
Oh, The Big Lebowski is a classic. I'd love to see them bring that to the screen. I mean, I don't know what they would do with it, but it would be brilliant.
Yeah, maybe. Right, it's time to go for a break, and after that we'll have our first review.
Right, advert. What do I need to say in an advert? Well, I need to say that we're the Gamescast. I need to say that we're on Twitter at the Gamescast. I need to say we're on Facebook. I need to say we've got a website, thegamescast.com, and I need to say we're on YouTube. Oh yeah, and we're on this thing called Spreaker.com. Don't know where that came from. What else? That's probably it. Right, better record it. Oh, crap. That was 30 seconds. The Gamescast. Grown-up gamers talking about games. Allegedly.
Right, welcome back. Let's get on to our first review.
Looper, which is the big independent film, really, written and directed by... Are we going with Rian? Is it Ryan?
I'm going with Rian because it's R and then Ian on the end, so I'll go with Rian. But if you want to go with Ryan, then we've covered both bases then.
Him Johnson, I don't know.
Him Johnson. I bet his mother is proud.
Yeah. He's the writer and director of it. It stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Joe, who in the near future, sort of 2040, I think it's roughly set, he is what's called a looper, where there are further in the future, the technology to be able to time travel has been created, immediately outlawed, but because of criminal organisations have hold of it and such, what they do in the future is use it to be able to actually remove people, as in kill people who they want to get rid of, because in the future, sort of in the 2070, so sort of 30 years later, they're unable to get away with murder. Crime is too well covered and prevented. So what they do is they get whoever this person is they want to get rid of, send them back in time 30 years to a looper, where a looper will kill them and dispose of the body and any evidence. Joe is one of these loopers, who, as part of the deal, is after so many years, they will then have, as their final kill, will be themselves from the future, effectively closing their loop and leaving no trace or any witness in the future or anyone as a record of the people they've killed, where the bodies are hid, etc., things like that. Unfortunately, though, when this actually comes to happen, and his future self, played by Bruce Willis, comes back, the two of them have a sort of conflict, and the older Joe manages to escape, which is the ultimate rule: do not let anyone escape, especially if it is your future self. Here's a clip.
So it's staring into your eyes. It's too strange. Your face looks backwards. Yeah. So do you know what's gonna happen? You done all this already? As me? I don't want to talk about time travel. Because if we start talking about it, then we're going to be here all day talking about it, making diagrams with straws. We both know how this has to go down. I can't let you walk away from this diner alive. This is my life now. I earned it. You had yours already. So why don't you do what old men do and die? Why don't you just take your little gun out between your legs and do it? Boy.
So the thing with Looper is that it is it's hard to try and explain it, and also without giving away too many things, because there are things in it that you will not see coming. There are things in it which are incredibly confusing to the average moviegoer. Stuart and I were
that
just talking...
sounded very condescending. Now.
to the average guy, to those uninitiated with time travel films.
Or to the people who just go to see a film where they're expecting big, huge, massive explosions and nothing else.
Yeah, well, it's down to the fact that because it is involving time travel, as you heard in that clip, if we try and explain this, we're going to be sitting here drawing straw diagrams. But it's the whole thing of in most time travel films, what you see is you still see things in order. You see the cause, then you see the effect. Here, though, you see the effect and then you see the cause. It's really cleverly constructed, really well put together, so you understand the view of both the younger Joe and the older Joe and what's going on between the two of them and what each of them has their own goals and such. It's really well written. It's really well thought out. But then if you do think about it further down the line, there are holes and cracks that start to appear. It's got this thing as well. There's a sort of ongoing plot towards the last half of the film, which is to do with something else to do with the older Joe's motives and why he's there. And the whole thing is really well edited. I found it to be really enjoyable. At the start, there is a bit about sort of 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in, where, and I know this happens to Stuart was talking to me just now about this, that people actually got up and walked. 2 people got up in my cinema. It was 2 women got up, walked out, and I could hear them discuss it, saying, I don't understand this, I'm getting lost in it. So it's one of these films that if you go to see it, you do have to pay attention. It is complex. You need to be
It's very stupid to walk out after 20 minutes to see that you're confused, because you've only seen 20 minutes of a film, when the film itself is obviously going to explain what's going on.
I mean, another thing that really annoys me about it is the advertising. All the posters you see everywhere. Because when I was in London this weekend, I almost went to see it again because I was lucky to see it last week after our show last week. But in London, there's a big, massive poster for it, and it's got this year's The Matrix, and it's one of the most misleading poster taglines that they've been, because it's not like The Matrix. It's not an action film with kung fu and everything and bullet time and all that. It is a time travel thriller that is more like if you had a Inception and 12 Monkeys had a love child, this would be it. There's elements of those and a dozen films in here. But overall, it is bigger than the sum of its parts. It's a really well done film. I'm absolutely amazed by what they managed to do with it being a small film as well, an independent film, and I'm really looking forward to whatever Ryan Johnson does next.
Yeah, the thing also with Looper is the fact that the more I felt anyway, the more the film went on, the more it started to become more of a drama rather than a thriller. Because the last half of the film, like you said, it does involve Emily Blunt, because Emily Blunt's in the film as well, and it involves her character and something else which we're not going to spoil. But the more that played out, the more it felt more of a drama rather than a thriller. So it felt like it was a science fiction thriller drama, and then at the end it beefed up the science fiction part. And I found it a lot more interesting in the end chunk, because I was more interested in the character development. There was a lot more character development. You saw the past of Joe and things like that. I just liked the way they did. And the only thing that put me off was the prosthesis on Joseph Gordon-Levitt to make him look like Bruce Willis. I was watching the film thinking, I know that's prosthesis because I remember reading that it was a prosthetic on his face, and I was thinking, did they have to do that? They didn't have to do that. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is 32 and Willis is in his 60s, I think. Late 50s, early 60s, something like that anyway. But they didn't have to do that.
I get why they did it. I mean, I can understand why they did it, but yeah, I agree it's not entirely necessary, or it is, if you have seen Joseph Gordon-Levitt in films, because he's been in that many films recently, that there is this odd thing about the way he looks in it. But I mean, it's not a major issue, I don't think. But it is a question of why bother with that, you know?
Yeah, but I loved it. I thought it was a really intelligent film, and it's the kind of film that demanded to be released sort of like at the tail end of the box office season, the big blockbuster season, because we need a film like this once a year. A film which can show. Well,
we've had Inception, then Source Code, and then this. It's of that kind of caliber. It really is that kind of a decent, well put together, not thought provoking, but thought necessary. You need to pay attention, and if you will, by come the movie's end or even before the end, you will be rewarded, and it will start to make sense. And it's really well done in that way.
Yeah, and it just shows you the fact that science fiction fans are not nerds and geeks; they're very intelligent people.
Yeah, it's a brilliant film. I mean, it is going to be. I think you'll agree, we're going to have this in our best films of the year.
Yeah, possibly.
It's going to be. It's really up there. I'll be surprised if it's not.
Possibly. Right there, on to the next film. It's the fifth in the Resident Evil series, Resident Evil Retribution. Again, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Again, starring Milla Jovovich as Alice. The start of the film kicks off exactly where the end of the last film finished. So, if you've not seen the last film, spoilers for the next couple of seconds. The start of the film, it's told in reverse. The ship that Alice and the people who survived at the end of the last film are on is being attacked by Umbrella. Alice is sort of everything, like I said, is done in reverse. So she's flying back onto the ship from out of the sea, and the explosions are going back onto themselves. The movie then plays forward, where you see all the explosions, and Alice gets blown into the sea. You then hear a voiceover from Alice giving you an indication what's happened in the previous 4 films, which is completely unnecessary because you don't need a thing to tell you about that. Alice is then took into this huge, massive compound by Umbrella, and each day she's interrogated by Jill Valentine, played by Sienna Gilroy, who pops up in this film. It's the first time she's been in a Resident Evil film since the second one. After a few days, a power cut happens in this huge, massive facility. Alice ends up escaping, but into a hallway that's completely overrun by zombies. She manages to get into this huge, massive room where she's met by a familiar face. Here's a clip.
My name is Ada Wong, operative for the Umbrella Corporation, one of Albert Wesker's top agents. I know exactly who and what you are. Now the real question is, why don't I just cancel your contract right now?
I don't work for Umbrella anymore. And neither does Albert Wesker.
So, as you heard there, she's met by Ada Wong, played by Bingbing Lee. This is the first time that Ada's properly popped up into a Resident Evil film. And during that conversation, she says that she's no longer working for Umbrella, and same as Wesker. Wesker then comes onto a huge, massive screen saying that he needs Alice's help, and he's put together a task force, a team, fronted by Leon Kennedy and a couple of the survivors, one of the survivors anyway from the last film, to come down into this facility. They've got 2 hours to try and extract her because this facility is going to blow up. The more she journeys through this facility, the more she realises it's a huge, massive testing ground for Umbrella to test the Los Plagos, which is present in the last film, and in the games also, on zombies to try and obviously control them. And each area of this huge, massive facility is replicated from a city, so Moscow, Tokyo. So when you're seeing slogans saying it spans across the world, it's not technically across the world. It's in this huge, massive facility. And they come across mutants in the form of lickers, and also the Nemesis has been more beefed up from the last one. And they have to try and get Alice out of this facility because she holds the key to be able to end what Umbrella has actually done. Now I'm not going to explain the story anymore because I think I've probably just done it there. And the film itself, unfortunately, I'm a Resident Evil fan, and I'm not much of a fan of the second film. I thought the second film was the weakest out of the entire series. The problem with this is, yeah, I think it is anyway. The problem with this one is it just treads too much of a familiar ground. Everything that happens in this film has been done before. There is nothing new and nothing special about this film whatsoever. It just seems to be that they've completely run out of ideas. There is one more film in the series to come because Paul Anderson has said that he wants to end Alice's story for sure. And obviously, if you've seen the film itself and you've seen the ending, you know that it's going to come. Thing is, though, the ending is in the trailer. The ending of the film is directly in the trailer, which was really annoying. It's just that it's treading too much of a familiar ground, and if you're a fan of the Resident Evil series, you'll find it to be an okay, decent film, but there is nothing special happens in this movie whatsoever. There is a decent fight scene which involves Rian, played by Michelle Rodriguez, who you'll have seen in the first film, and she died in the first film. Again, spoilers, but you're probably wondering how did they manage to get her back into this one. I'm not going to explain how they managed to do that. And there's a fantastic fight scene near the end of the film which involves Ada, Alice and Rian, and you see a camera that goes inside the person's body when Rian's managed to get contact with them, and you see the ribs cracking. It's the kind of thing that you've seen in a few beat-em-up games. And I just found that really interesting. The fight scene had more emphasis behind it because they didn't decide to go into slow motion. And again, that's another problem with Resident Evil films. Through each one of the Resident Evil films, they seem to go more and more with slow motion. And I'm guessing about a quarter of this film is in slow-mo. I'm not joking there.
Yeah, no. The reason that I think that I've realised, because when I saw this, I was kind of figuring it out, and the issue that I think there is with that, with why there's been so much slow motion used in it, and in the previous ones as well, and particularly the last one, is because of the fact they've started using 3D in it. Because in 3D, when you're editing, you have to allow for time for the eye to adjust between shots. So if it was done at normal speed, the editing would be too quick. People would struggle focusing on it. People would get loads of headaches and stuff. So I think that's why they've ramped up the slow motion. For me, this isn't the worst of the films. For me, the third one is the worst film, but this is second to that. This is really a major disappointment for the series. It is effectively... I mean, after the opening sequence, it's like they've decided, we can't be bothered solving what we set up in the last one, so they've done another press the reset button thing, and then started doing a whole other film, and it's literally I'm presuming that in the next one, whatever happens, you could literally skip this film and just go to that one, and you wouldn't be none the worse off for it. The opening sequence I really did love. I thought at the beginning, I was like, oh, this is interesting, I love this. The way that there's the whole action sequence set on the ship, which is from the end of the fourth film, but it's played back in reverse, and the music by Tom and Dandy really works there, and it's an amazingly, it's almost like an art house thing. But then after that, straight reset button, awful, boring, action sequences that aren't really even action sequences, dialogue that's terrible, characters you don't really give a flying crap about, and it's just monotonous bore. Even you said the fight sequence at the end, I lost interest by that point. I didn't care. I just wanted it to be over.
Yeah, it's just, I feel that the series has become really stagnant now, and like you said, they could easily take Retribution out of the Resident Evil canon. And I don't know why the hell it's called Retribution, because she gets no retribution at all during the entirety of the film. There is no, because it does lead up to another film, but there's no retribution in it whatsoever. And I'm thinking, well, we've got to have an R for a name at the end of Resident Evil. Retribution, why not? But it does feel stagnant now, when they need to get somebody else in if they're going to do any more Resident Evil films after the Alice's story is finished, and completely overhaul them. I think they need to go back to the first film and go back to a smaller scale movie where it's more claustrophobic and more about scares, because unfortunately Capcom seem to be following suit, and they seem to be making their games on a bigger scale, because if you look through their game series, they've gone from being small, contained areas where it's all about tension, to now being all about explosions and things like that. And that's not what I want to see in a Resident Evil game or film. I want to see more tension.
In the films, bigger isn't always better. So, I mean, it really is a thing that hopefully if they do ramp it down a bit in the next and presumably final one, then it will be better. But this one's really, unfortunately, a waste.
Yeah, it definitely is a waste, and it is unfortunate considering that I am a bit of a Resident Evil fan, and I just want. I might as well suggest you go and watch the two animated films, Degeneration, and the one which we reviewed last week, which I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember that either.
No. But watch the two animated films, because they're much more better. They're much more. Their story is much more self-contained and much more together than what this film is. And I would just. I'm going to say avoid it. I would avoid it. Right, that's it for the cinema part of the show. We'll be back in a moment live on Spreaker with the DVD and Blu-ray part of the show. Again, if you're listening to us live, make sure you refresh Spreaker. I can't even speak. Or when you see the link on Twitter, just click on that and you'll be able to listen in. If you're listening on other places, on YouTube or iTunes or whatever, leave us a rating and a comment as well. And so we will be back in a moment.